And trust me, when it comes to Frodo, you really don't want me to argue the true meaning of why the ring makes you invisible. The urge to hide from the world lest they discover the ugly truth? The secret you've been hiding? Left alone in a dark, cold world removed? The eye of shame always upon you? Its demons closing in on all sides? And all you want to do is give in. I could make a very compelling case for why Frodo is gay. Sam makes a compelling argument for why Sam's gay all on his own.
It's me. It's your Sam. Don't you know you're Sam?
Welcome to a video that I did not want to make that will probably put me at war with at least half of the hunchbacked, low-jawed, empty-eyed, wide-mouthed, toothy, blood-sucking, hell-dwelling internet.
The internet is a literal demon and will be described as such.
First, let's talk about what this high-paced, unhinged, breakneck video is about. We have yaoi, shipping, using quips as evidence to support an argument, sensitivity issues, that's why I use Sensodyne, hashtag not sponsored, complicated human dynamics, media literacy, South Park, gay hobbits, bi hobbits, repressed hobbits, very straight and manly hobbits who are masculine and don't do gay things, nuance, God we hate nuance, don't we, critical analysis, philosophy, anime, friendship, homophobia, both good and bad, the Matrix, relationships, Captain America, poetry, writing, intention, the many crimes of C.S. Lewis, the many crimes of J.K. Rowling, the breaking down of negative comments. This is a nutrient-dense video. Hopefully your body will thank me at some point, otherwise, people might think it's ungrateful. This video will build on itself and get progressively more insane as we go. Skipping around is highly discouraged for your own mental health and informational osmosis. Do not say I didn't warn you, you have been warned. The original video I'm responding to is only 10 minutes, and this video is a lot longer than 10 minutes. As such, I only touch upon the topics I go over, but let me tell you, each section could have been their own 3-hour epic. So either I'm doing you a favor by condensing a myriad of arguments into bite-sized snacks, or robbing you of free content. It's all a matter of perspective, really. However, even with this short amount of time, I should provide plausible reasoning as to why the original video I'm responding to was a philosophical nightmare that consumes itself from the inside out like an alien capital A chest burster. But it is also a chest burster, bursting out of its own chest, killing itself just so it can survive. Listen, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't make sense. And my response is, yeah, no, it doesn't. Now let's talk about what this video is not about. A call to cancel anybody. Not that that even works. That would just be inefficient virtue signaling, and this video is more about the actual nuance of the issue and learning, not signaling to your virtues so you can give me your money and attention. You should give me your money and attention because I have my own good ideas, not because I have other people's ideas. That's what ChatGPT is for. Now, hopefully you'll take it all in with an open mind, because it hurts a lot more taking it in with a closed mind. It's kind of like anal in that way. You know what? That's a good quote. That's my new quote. New ideas are like anal. Relax and be receptive, or it's really gonna hurt now and later. Also, yes, I'm dressed as a little rosy-cheeked Frodo hobbit. What are you gonna do? Call me gay? You see, because the video I'm responding to makes the claim that it's wrong and toxic to claim that Frodo is gay, and everyone in the comments agreed, I'm effectively protected from bullying here, lest the people expose themselves as hypocrites. Full spoilers, I'm gonna expose them as hypocrites anyway. The original video I'm responding to will be linked below. The video itself is only 10 minutes and you should watch it, but you don't need to watch it. I will be referencing all points I address throughout in detail for the people who don't like homework. My issues with the video in question are multi-layered and nigh endless. The video is based on pretense. It is deceptively pleasing. It is plausible but false. It is, for lack of a better word, specious. The word was specious if the obnoxious echoes got in the way of your understanding. Tell your vocabulary I said, you're welcome. Now my video, by comparison, is going to seem like it's coming from that one friend who's too woke, but it's actually coming from that one friend who thinks, not even thinks too much, just basic mid-level THINKS thinks. Open up your third eye, you know, the one on your...
Penis. Penis. I did it.
That's the best way to be woke, I've heard. The very best way to be woke. The original video from the Geeky Stoics had a thumbnail I didn't want to click on, but had to click on, which probably means that it's a good thumbnail. Hey, nice work. The thumbnail in question is a screenshot of Sam and Frodo from Lord of the Rings with the words, "Please stop," in big, bold letters. The please is in white, The stop is in red for aggressive contrast. It makes you think, hey, maybe I should stop. The video itself is titled Friendship is Not Gay, actually. And that's what the original video at its base level is about. An emphatic foot stomp of friendship being very, very masculine and straight. So straight you could stick it up your. Oh! Now, I know some of you are already typing up an uninformed opinion because that seems innocuous on the surface, but it's not, and we'll peel back all of those juicy layers. At one point, the author claims that very simply, it is toxic to infer that two male friends, fictional or otherwise, are gay in terms of things like shipping, speculation, and critical analysis.
We hear it all the time. Sam and Frodo from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings is a perfect example. They must be gay. These two men couldn't possibly travel Middle-earth together, sacrificing life and limb, comfort and safety for anything other than sexual attraction. And my God, the eye contact when they speak to one another and cry in their shared suffering. The word toxic gets quite abused, but it's actually so toxic to suggest this.
However, he curiously doesn't seem to make the same statement about gay jokes. In fact, he even intersperses them throughout the video, seemingly defending them.
Sometimes these on-screen relationships toy with the gay question as a matter of comedy. Playing grab ass is part of the shtick.
The video even argues some grand cultural conspiracy, insinuating that there's something truly sinister going on with the shipping industrial complex, and admittedly, there is, but it's just not what the author thinks.
Now, why does the culture try to corrupt and deride friendship? One of C.S. Lewis's most bold claims in The Four Loves about this is that friendships are a threat to power and collectivist tyranny.
I mean, there's just so much to unpack here. It's like I'm starting my life over in a big new city. Will I find love? Will I shed my former image as a shut-in loser with an anime addiction and an unhealthy relationship with salted caramel Twix and Pepsi Cola? Will I climb the corporate ladder, crushing my lessers beneath me as I go? They're the real corporate ladder, if you ask me. The video in question is a matter of dangling keys in front of a baby. It is a meaningless distraction from the actual issues it wants to address. It is rigid and unnuanced. So rigid, in fact, you could stick it up your ass. Oh! There is so much poorly thought out and uninformed philosophy that it required an hour-long, detailed, hyper-paced response. And to be honest, even this detailed, hyper-paced, hour-long video is underbaked, which just so happens to be my favorite kind of cookie. There's just too much to untangle, too much to set right. It should have been 3 hours to even scratch the surface of a fully baked cookie, but I have a busy life and I ain't got that kind of time. By the end of this video, you should not only understand why the video I'm responding to is unintellectual and uncritical, but you will hopefully better understand the complicated and nuanced nature of both life and artistic criticism, as well as why thinking about things is hard. Actually. Things will be broken down chapter by chapter to address each bizarre, unsubstantiated, and hypocritical point the author makes in the format you see beside me. Now, while I do agree with some of the points presented, i.e. friendship is good, there's just so many poorly thought out issues that I felt compelled as if by a witch's spell to respond. I didn't want to respond, I had to respond. With that being said, it might sound like I am in fact insulting the author with what I'm about to say, but I promise I'm not insulting the author. I'm insulting you. You know, I preemptively apologize, but just so you know, some people say all the best friendships start with an insult and all the bad friendships start with a lie. So in that case, this is a good thing for the both of us. Allow me to introduce the pirate software law of intellectualism. Talking slowly or in a deep voice does not validate your point. It does not make you right. It does not mean you are intelligent, knowledgeable, or truthful. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with speaking like this. I think the author is good at his presentation. Again, this is not an insult directed at him. It's an insult directed at people who ignore the substance of an argument because it sounds good. I just need you to be aware, you, that just because of the way someone talks does not validate their opinions and arguments as facts. This is especially important because this is the most persuasive part of the original essay, the calm, lulling cadence of the author's delivery. Now, we're gonna start with the goofy, silly, more unserious fuckery first, and then peel back the rest layer by layer. It only gets more complicated from here, so enjoy the dumb shit while you can. Please note, I will be speaking to you, the viewer, not the author, though I will be referencing the original author throughout. Now, In the original video, the author relies on a lot of quotes from C.S. Lewis as well as cherry picking clips from various pieces of media to support his arguments, so that's where we will begin. Chapter 1. When greasy hands pick cherries, cherries fall. I warn you, this chapter is going to be me at my most ridiculous, but mostly to prove a point, and mostly because the original arguments are ridiculous themselves. Even so, I still think my cartoonish and joke-ridden arguments in this chapter are better than the ones in the original video. In an effort to prove that friendship is in fact not gay, the author provides a paraphrasing of a C.S. Lewis quote that the comment section gooned for with no further critical thought.
Lovers are normally face to face, friends side by side.
Yes, guess we can pack it up, guys. That just solved both relationship dynamics and sexuality. Videos over. Don't know why I made this whole fucking thing an hour long. When you say a quote like this, there's a very particular type of person who is wowed by it. The same person who has likely had a Live, Laugh, Love poster in their home at one point or another. But just because something is quippy does not mean it is, in fact, true. It's a magician's trick. It wows you because it sounds good. You enjoy things such as this, not that type of writing. Most people do. It's why ChatGPT uses that template so much. It's the most unimpressive way to seem impressive besides inheriting your father's fortune. As such, let me introduce you to another law, the Dave Chappelle fallacy. Just because something is witty does not make it correct. It is not a comedian's job to be correct. It is not a comedian's job to be smart. It is not a comedian's job to be truthful. It is, however, a comedian's job to make you laugh, and usually by doing so, they convince you of the former. I'm not saying comedians can't be smart or truthful. I'm saying a comedian on their best day will likely always choose what is funny over what is perfectly true, just like a politician on their best day will always choose what sounds good over what is perfectly true. Same with someone making an argument. So it becomes your responsibility to learn how to critically interface with said arguments and actually think about the things you're taking in. I know, man, a shudder at the thought of responsibility, I get it. A lot of the examples shown in this video are clips from various media like King of the Hill, Friends, Captain America, South Park, and Harry Potter, showing male friends side by side and male-female lovers face to face. But a deeper examining of the source material of the original clips almost instantly Thanos snaps this quippy ideology into the dust of a bad argument, because not only does it disprove the quip of friends being side by side and lovers being face to face, but also, without that rigid framework to go off of, we as an audience, we as hopefully independent thinking organisms, also have to answer the classic question that has plagued philosophers since the times of ancient Alonia. What, my dear Watson, is gay? Oh, what is friendship for that matter? I'm not going to answer that question for you, but I'll hopefully lead you in the right direction. Spoiler alert, it's a question you have to answer for yourself. You know, and even before we get into the clips, the author mentions male-on-male eye contact in a positive light at least twice in this video, already shitting on the silly little quip, but I digress so fucking hard.
There will be hugs, backslaps, eye contact. My God, the eye contact.
Now, allow me to cartoonishly provoke your thoughts. Now, in a video about positive platonic male intimacy, King of the Hill is probably one of the most egregious examples here. As someone who loves King of the Hill, Hank Hill himself is incredibly uncomfortable with effeminate characteristics in men, and in turn, male-on-male intimacy. This is a series-long issue he has in his relationship with his son, as Bobby is effeminate and sensitive and doesn't care about the same societal norms that hold his father back in his interpersonal relationships. Hank himself is very uncomfortable with and closed up about his feelings.
You're my son, well, you know, with everything, that entails, you know, feelings of, fondness and, you know what I mean, don't you, boy?
No.
Well, oh, that's a hell of a weird sound. I never made that before.
Hank is part of the problem, a perpetuator of the idea that platonic male intimacy is bad, something that should cause discomfort and unease, something unnatural, the very thing the original video is advocating against. In one episode of Friends, Joey and Ross accidentally fall asleep with each other. Initially, this makes them uncomfortable, especially Ross, but eventually they both realize and admit that they enjoyed it. They agree that they have never experienced a moment of rest as good as the time they slept together.
That was the best nap I ever had. I don't know what you're talking about. Admit it. That was the best nap you ever had. I've had better. When? All right, it was the best nap ever! I said it, okay? But it's over, Joey.
The big clever joke being, despite their discomfort, they eventually give in to their desire. Non-sexual desire to clarify, but desire nonetheless, and they begin taking naps together in private. I mean, why not? They got really good sleep, they felt comforted by the physical presence of one another, they fit together like little Lego blocks. Is this gay? If not, would it be gay if one of them was gay and the other wasn't but wanted to cuddle? Is cuddling with your bros gay? Have they crossed a line? If not, when does it become gay? When Joey slips it in? Let's be honest. Ross is a power bottom. These are the questions that must be answered. What are the limits on same-sex friendship? Are the limits different for men and women? If so, why? I can define these limits for myself, but I can't define them for you. That's a deeply personal choice and one the original video tries to force on you over and over again. It's part of the problem with the original video. It just doesn't seem to understand that. But again, just looking at that episode of Friends, lovers face to face and friends side by side is a pretty meaningless statement. I mean, this scene feels very face to face for two platonic friends, or you know, but bottom on top. The author also uses Captain America and the Winter Soldier as an example, saying men need to be willing to get hurt and be challenged. He cites that Bucky and Steve, among others, have a strained relationship, saying that they are people in tension with one another. They fight, but they are passionate.
They're people in tension with one another. They fight, but they're passionate. They care about things.
I'm gonna be honest, this is just misremembering what happened in these films. I would have avoided using this example altogether. Okay, I personally would have avoided using all of these examples, but I digress. Bucky and Steve were great friends in the World War II past of it all, but in the present that switched and they were quote unquote in tension because Bucky was fucking brainwashed and used as a mindless assassination drone. Did we forget the whole fucking plot of the movie? That is the primary source of their tension, psychological abuse, what all great friendships are founded on. Beyond that super small issue, onto the gay stuff. Captain America's relationship with Bucky was more deep and profound than his relationship with Peggy Carter ever was within the context of the films. Steve spent longer chasing Bucky than he ever did Peggy. The intensity of his feelings were more powerful with Bucky than they ever were with Peggy, and even more, Bucky was the impetus for Steve's actions more than Peggy ever was. Yeah, sure, I mean, he went to see Peggy on her deathbed, and at the very end of his narrative time traveled to be with her, but this is a woman he barely knew. He knew Bucky inside and out. He was quite often face to face with Bucky, or more appropriately, face to back. You know, because he was chasing him, trying to hunt down and wrangle one of the greatest loves of his life, like a horny gay cowboy. What, did you have a problem with that phrasing? Not the horny gay cowboy part, the greatest love of his life part. If you do, why? It is a factually true statement. Bucky was inarguably one of the greatest loves of Steve's life. Do you need to specify platonic? Does it make you uncomfortable if you don't? I personally think the specificity cheapens it. It makes it seem like it's something to be ashamed of, gay or not, and it is not something to be ashamed of. Their love is beautiful. But again, this is something that many different people are going to have many different answers to for many different reasons. Which again is part of the issue with the original video, trying to force fuck people into a very rigid structure of what the author thinks a relationship is and what it should look like, which society keeps trying to do, and looking around at divorce rates, dating apps, men's opinions on women, and women's opinions on men, it's not fucking working, man. At the end of the day, are Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes actually gay together? Probably not, but I would put this on the fault of the writers for making their relationship more impactful, more desperate, more occupying, and more meaningful than Steve's relationship with Peggy Carter. Also, imagine what Bucky could do with that metal arm. I'm sure Cap could take a whole fucking... sorry. The author also uses South Park as an example, but probably just as a way to ethically source gay jokes.
The word toxic gets quite abused, but it's actually so toxic to suggest this. And it comes from the very people who complain the loudest about straight men's emotionally withholding nature. Men should cry more. Why can't they share their feelings? But if they do, gay.
Wait, hold on. Wait a second. This is gay. This is really gay. Yeah, this is even gayer than all the men getting in a big pile and having sex with each other.
You know what? We'll save South Park for the end because I have a lot of very offensive stuff to say about South Park that's gonna blow your cock through the back of your Speedo. So like any good video essayist, it's time for me to tell you to put a pin in that, baby girl. I also need you to put a pin in Ron, Harry, and Hermione. I know I sound like a voodoo priestess right now, but Yogi, bear with me, okay? When it comes to Sam and Frodo, you see conflicting interpretations of their relationship because their love does feel very romantic, and they are very much face to face. The creator of the original video even details their eye-to-eye contact, shitting directly on the paraphrased toilet bowl quote from C.S. Lewis. When Sam tells Frodo,
Don't leave me here alone. Don't go where I come from.
That's some of the most romantic shit I've ever heard in my short little meaningless life. However, the author argues that it is ridiculous to think that Sam and Frodo are traveling to Mordor because of their sexual attraction to each other.
These two men couldn't possibly travel Middle-earth together, sacrificing life and limb, comfort and safety for anything other than sexual attraction.
But that is a disingenuous and obfuscating argument in and of itself. Sam and Frodo are traveling to Mordor as a dutiful responsibility that the two hobbits take on in order to save the world. No one's arguing they're gay because they traveled to Mordor together. People argue they're gay because they feel very gay. Their relationship is more intimate and emotional than most male-female couples I've seen in my real day-to-day life. If a husband and wife run a lifelong business together, is that based in sex? Did they open it so they can fuck on the prep table, or did they open it because they have a common goal? For some people, it's possible to have goals in a committed relationship beyond slow fucking to ready for the world. For some people, a one-night stand does not constitute romantic love. For some people, a loving relationship is more important than a sexual one. I'm not saying one idea is more valid than another. That's an argument for a different video. What I am saying is this is what happens when you base your ideology off of quips. Bad quips at that. Unnuanced critical thought. The art of just saying shit. Also, see the 12-year gap in this post versus the responses? This is not a new phenomenon. This will always be a thing. You could make a million videos and a million essays, and no matter how masculine you want it to be, someone is always going to watch The Lord of the Rings and think this is
Gay.
Doesn't matter if you tell them about Tolkien's wartime relationship. Doesn't matter if Rosie is a briefly mentioned love interest for Sam, because at the end of the day, this is fucking romance. You might not want it to be, but it is. The dismissive sexual attraction argument also misses the point of a lot of romantic stories in the zeitgeist. Things as old as fucking Romeo and Juliet. People will do crazy shit for love, and yes, that might include traveling across Middle-earth and dying for one another. Again, I don't think that's the case here. I firmly believe two things can be true at once. Sam and Frodo can both be committed to saving the world, but they can also be in love while doing it. I mean, don't a lot of films have plots that follow that exact structure? Oh, what the fuck are we doing here? I mean, besides, why do you think Gollum called them nasty, filthy hobbitses? He was a hobbit himself. This isn't an issue of racism, it's an issue of homophobia. Cancel Gollum. Who's gonna cancel Gollum? Chapter 2, The H Word. Don't worry, no one is trying to cancel you. When looking at the scene from Scrubs, JD and Turk are incredibly gay, metaphorically speaking, but they probably do have a straight relationship. This one is less ambiguous to me, and it would be hard for me to argue out their gayness. However, when comparing JD and Turk, just from this clip alone,
You're the only man who's ever been inside of me.
JD seems to live within the framework of their very intimate friendship with unabashed joy. JD loves Turk in a platonic yet very deep way, and no one can make him feel shame about it, whereas Turk is bashed. This is, please relax, in a very non-dramatic way, what homophobia looks like. Now, it is possible in other scenes in the show, Turk doesn't hate others for being gay, but that fear of being perceived as such shows that he thinks homosexuality is beneath him. He looks down on it. He would be lesser to be perceived as such. To Turk, being gay is bad. Yes, I'm aware the joke is haha lol gay, but from an analytical perspective, that is what's happening here. When people nitpick the word homophobia and say shit like, I'm not scared of gay people, I just hate them. This is for you. This is what that brand of homophobia looks like. In this scene, Turk is actually afraid of being seen as gay. Turk is afraid of homosexuality. homosexuality. Now, this doesn't usually happen in real life with gay men when they're called straight on accident. When a gay man is called straight, they will in most situations either make a joke, quietly move on with their life, be excited that they passed for a brief moment, or if they do make a big deal, it's either for comedic effect or because they are trying to make a point due to how often straight men do the same thing in earnest when they're called gay. It's a retaliatory thing. Violence begets violence. Hello, Mr. Punisher.
You know a word I don't like? Nuance.
Yeah, so does this video and all the comments therein. Two other important things to note about this scene. Turk is drawing a line in what he considers to be gay and not gay, his line being male-on-male penetration. And it's probably a good line to have. Very clear, very rigid. He might have more lines, but I'm not watching 10 seasons of Scrubs to find them. Good for Turk. It's important to know your limits. Second thing to note is that in Scrubs, friends, lovers, and coworkers are all working side by side and also face to face. They all share intimate and dynamic relationships, enriching deeper as the show goes on. Things get more complicated. The original saying, friends are side by side, lovers are face to face, is meaningless slop. No more quip-based life advice. When you are an adult, most friendships and romances usually happen at work because that's where adults meet the most people. And before that, it's school. Now, I need to remind you of a very important quote from Friendship Is Not Gay. The word toxic gets quite abused, but it's actually so toxic to suggest this, that friends might be gay. And it comes from the very people who complain the loudest about straight men's emotionally withholding nature. Men should cry more. Why can't they share their feelings? But if they do, gay, gay. This is probably one of the worst parts of the video. I really have to be honest. It creates this weird straw man argument where it attributes homophobic insults, shipping, and social criticism of male repression all to the same imaginary person, aka the straw man. But this person does not exist. This motherfucker is more made up than the fucking Babadook. Let's break it down, basement. The people who think men are repressed and held in a prison of performative masculinity, the people who, as the author puts it, complain the loudest about the straight man's emotionally withholding nature, are 100% not the same people who use the word gay in a derogatory manner or call people homophobic slurs. These are two unequivocally separate people. The first group might question a person's sexuality, but it is not done in a derogatory manner, and the people making these gay ships are usually doing so, as far as I've seen, in a positive and appreciative light regarding their sexuality.
Yaoi is a blend of emotion and beauty, involving two people whose love is looked down upon. The art tries to show that all love is magical, like in Lisa Akimoto's piece, Tweek and Craig, Forbidden Love.
The people using the word gay derogatorily and calling people slurs are the straight men themselves and also the women who hate to see them shine. Again, I emphasize, he uses examples in his own video derogatorily making jokes about ha, lol, gay! Oh, why are you so offended? I mean, I am offended, but not by the homophobia here. I've seen worse. I'm offended by the violent lack of logical cohesion. Honestly, at this point, I'm convinced homophobia, as well as the fact that men can't have intimate friendships, is literally due to a lack of logical cohesion in the broadest of senses. You know, that's what the original video should have been about. It would have been a lot more helpful to the cause of platonic male intimacy than hobbits no gay. But when it's an appreciative and affectionate insinuation of gayness, that's when there seems to be an issue. Do we see the hypocrisy here? Do we see the lack of logical cohesion? For my whole life, I have watched straight men make fun of other straight men for being too close to other men. You guys did this to yourselves. You are locked in a genjutsu mind prison, playing fourth dimensional chess against your own brains. Stop blaming society and propaganda. The phone is ringing again. Let's check the caller ID. Surprise! The call is coming from inside the house. Ghostface is right upstairs, bitch. Don't just get to pawn this off on everybody else. You don't get to break all your windows with a shovel, scream, I just broke all my windows with a shovel, and that's okay, then accuse a shadow in someone else's home of breaking all your windows. That sounds fucking crazy, because it is. This is probably the most frustrating part of the video, and that's considering how much I hate fucking quips. This shit is actual fucking nonsense, and even further, the author goes on to disprove his own argument again, admitting that the call is coming from inside the house, but he doesn't recognize it. In one section, he says, sometimes these on-screen relationships toy with the gay question as a matter of comedy. Again, the line seems to read that if you're making fun of two straight men for appearing gay, that's okay, but his whole thesis is how wrong this is. is. But he says it anyway, and doesn't critique any of his examples for doing this because it appears he doesn't care when it's done derogatorily. Even though it directly counters his own argument, he only seems offended when two men are described as gay and earnest with appreciation, a la our filthy hobbitses. Here, he is essentially describing the call coming from inside the house, but doesn't make the mental connection. Because, I assume, this person had an idea of something that upset him or made him uncomfortable and just had to talk emphatically about it in a 10-minute video. Now, going back to the original examples, this idea of homophobia and fear of being seen as gay further extends to Joey and Ross. The reason Joey and Ross stop sleeping with each other isn't because they don't like it, it's because of the way they're being perceived by their friends. So no one told you life was gonna be this gay. Joey and Ross don't want to be seen as gay. To Joey and Ross, gay is bad. So they would rather suffer and not enjoy something they love because they don't want to be judged and made fun of.
Great nap. It really was. Dude, what the hell are you doing?
Chapter 3, The Infinite, Always-On Whisper Machine. Now this line of thinking is objectively terrible because you're allowing yourself to be locked in a thought prison constructed by idiots. How do you get locked in a thought prison by people who don't have real thoughts? They have the malformed cancer cells of thought, ones that imagined they might be a limb or a tooth but never quite figured out how. It's kind of sad if you think about it. This behavior is a failure of both intellect and emotion on your part, the part of the individual. If you are sincerely worried that other people think you and your friend are gay together, that is multiple failures on you as a person. You're not actually worried about you and your friend being gay, you're worried about other people. Honestly, if your relationship comes off as gay, think of that as a compliment. Your friendship is so strong, it appears as if you are in a committed relationship. Good for you! Don't let your insecurity define your experience. Chapter 4, The Definition of Your Experience, aka Macaroni in a Pot, aka just the tip. Let you define your experience. Does your idea of a relationship follow Turk's law of gay, a belief that no matter how intimate you are with another man, it does not make you gay until penetration is insinuated or performed? Is the seemingly thin line, like Turk seems to believe, between that of a deep, wholesome friendship and a romantic relationship with someone of the same sex? Sex? If so, is a couple who no longer has sex, whether due to health issues, age, or disinterest, not in a relationship? What validates and invalidates a relationship? A mere proclamation? If you have deeper conversations with your friends than your lovers, how does that tip the balance? What do you even consider cheating? I mean, if you look at any red pill manosphere related content, they make a big deal of the difference in the ways men cheat versus the ways women cheat. They claim that men cheat by physical intimacy and women cheat by emotional intimacy, that the act of a man cheating is not that serious because sex is not that serious when emotions are not involved. However, they argue in turn, women cheating by physical intimacy is an act of emotional cheating because women are creatures of emotion or some fucking nonsense like that.
No, you guys kind of do know this, but you guys just don't like to admit it. When a man cheats, he's doing it from a physical perspective just to get some new strange. When women cheat,
it's emotions.
they're doing it, yeah, they're doing it typically because a lot of girls and they cheat sometimes just to get even, which is the dumbest thing you do. Or they're doing it because, like, they're kind of checked out. So when a woman cheats, it's more nefarious. When a man cheats, it's the equivalent to, like, maybe manslaughter. When a woman cheats, it's literally serial killer type shit because they plan that stuff out.
It is important to note, I am not endorsing these statements. They are not facts. I am just using them for framework because this seems to be a common belief among a very particular type of person. From my perspective, I think different people cheat in different types of ways regardless of their sex. And that different types of relationships have different types of rules for what is or is not cheating. And all of these fucking podcast losers are just running defense for why they repeatedly break the trust of the women who didn't see the podcast as the reddest of flags at the red flag department store. All the while creating a mind prison to keep the woman from doing the things that they are doing themselves. No, Marla, he didn't cheat on you because he's a Gemini. He cheated on you because he listed cheating as one of his favorite hobbies on his dating profile. Now, with that established, if you're a man, are you upset if your wife has deep conversations with another man? What about with another woman? Is the difference the potential for sex? If so, then why are so many people concerned with emotional cheating? What are your limits? Is physical intimacy more upsetting than emotional intimacy? You know, if you don't consider them the same thing. What if your wife tells her male friends things she doesn't tell you? Do you care? If not, is emotional cheating just an excuse to make it seem less bad when men cheat versus when women cheat? Or do you just not want your wife to interact with anyone? Your pretty little bird in your mortgage for the rest of your life little cage? These aren't accusations. These are questions meant to highlight how complicated all relationships are and to further provoke your thoughts. That way, you can introspect and learn what you actually believe in, because judging by the original video, people either don't know what they actually believe in or don't want to admit what they actually believe in. Is everything defined by sex or something more? Could human relationships possibly be a little bit nuanced? If you've answered any of these questions and your belief does not 100% strictly adhere to Turk's law of gay, then yes, Frodo and Sam can in fact be little hobbit boyfriends. Is that upsetting? Doesn't matter. It gets more complicated. I mean, we're just doing the easy shit first. Chapter 5. This pie has 2 flavors, but creepy Asterisks tastes fingers. They are quite similar. Whoa, tasty! Okay, so in the Lord of the Rings films, Sam eventually has a relationship with a woman, so he can't be gay. Not my Sam, he's my Sam! Counterpoint. Sometimes men like both men and women. It's a real thing, whether you believe it or not, kind of like vaccines. And I'll just let you puzzle out what that means for the chapter title. Chapter 6. I can't eat pie, I'm on a diet. Pie doesn't exist to me. Okay, so in the Lord of the Rings films, gay really isn't a thing, just like ethnic minorities. I mean, it's possible that due to the lack of sexuality existing in the world as we know it, Sam might not even understand his own feelings with no societal framework to go off of. He's just sitting there in his little hobbit dreams, so confused about all of these fuzzy little bedtime feelings he has for his delicate, blush-faced friend, thus leading him to a tragic life of repression. Do hobbits have closets? I'm pretty sure hobbits have closets. And trust me, when it comes to Frodo, you really don't want me to argue the true meaning of why the ring makes you invisible. The urge to hide from the world lest they discover the ugly truth? The secret you've been hiding? Left alone in a dark, cold world removed? The eye of shame always upon you? Its demons closing in on all sides? And all you want to do is give in. I could make a very compelling case for why Frodo is gay. Sam makes a compelling argument for why Sam's gay all on his own.
It's me. It's your Sam. Don't you know your Sam?
And if we want to go even further, in the books, after the death of his wife, Sam leaves all of his children forever to go chase down Frodo. I don't know, that seems a little, over your children, Sam? Over your own fucking children? However, do I actually believe this to be the case? It doesn't matter, but the argument can be made. That's what matters. Chapter 7. If you hear a song in another language, can it make you dance? Can it make you cry? AKA media literacy. No, the argument cannot be made. It's not what the author intended. You're perverting their ideas. Now, from my own perspective, that's not how art or criticism works. That's honestly the most boring and lifeless way to look at art. To me, once you make a piece of art, it is up to the consumer, aka the critic, aka you, to interpret and argue, if you so choose, the meaning of said art. And this works for all forms of art. Written word, paintings, sculptures, film, video games, a shoebox diorama, it's all up for you to interpret. And what does it make you feel? What does it make you think? Do you need the creator's permission before a scene makes you cry, before a scene makes you angry, before a scene makes you scared? Well, I actually don't get scared. I'm a big tough man. Do you need the creator's permission to think? Do you pause before every joke and search the internet to determine whether or not you are allowed to laugh? Do you see the inherent logical problem there? How ridiculous that is? You are not removed from the conversation of art. If people tell you you're bad at media literacy, this might be the reason. The fact that it seems like your ideas lack any critical thought. So, based on the aforementioned questions, I would like to introduce 2 important concepts regarding artistic criticism. Number 1, Reader response criticism is a school of literary theory that focuses on the reader and their own personal experience of a literary work versus focusing on the intention of the author, the content, or the form of the work. Reader response criticism was pioneered by people such as Louise M. Rosenblatt, who was a very prolific writer, professor, and researcher. In her 1933 book, yes, 1933, these are old, established concepts, kind of rude of you to interrupt though, but let's move on. In her 1933 book, Literature as Exploration, Rosenblatt argues that it is both unproductive and dumb as fuck to impose preconceived notions about the proper way to react to any work. The curtains are just blue if you believe the curtains are just blue. The issue isn't with the idea that the curtains might mean something. The issue is that your teacher insists that they mean something. Probably because the back of the textbook says they mean something. To be honest, in my experience, high school teachers are more apt to do this than college professors. I never had an issue arguing my point of view in college, but in high school, I was routinely told that's not the right answer, no matter how critical or well thought out my response. This doesn't mean that some interpretations can't be better than others. It just simply means interpret unimpeded. Number 2, in the theory of criticism I personally subscribe to, the death of the author. Not to be confused with separating the art from the artist. A lot of people make that mistake. Some people even make whole videos without understanding the difference. The concept of the death of the author was established in 1967 by literary critic Roland Barthes in his essay The Death of the Author, where he emphasizes the importance of an individual reader's interpretation of a text versus the author's intention. He argues that the birth of the reader must be ransomed by the death of the author, both metaphorically but also literally, since once an author dies, that would put a stop clause on all of their works. Without them alive to explain it and respond to any questions a reader might need answered, how would it have meaning ever after? Essentially, interpretation supersedes intent. What an author intended does not matter. Intention does not define reality. Art is meaningless until you engage with it. Even C.S. Lewis said it, and he's the whole rickety foundation the original video is built on. It might sound simple and stupid, but it must be said. You are not engaging with something until you are engaging with something. Again, another argument that C.S. Lewis made himself. Meaning doesn't exist for you until you make it exist. Meaning is something we negotiate within ourselves. You know, someone a lot more pretentious than me could argue that philosophy is us arguing the legitimacy of that meaning with other people. But you know, I'm not that pretentious. I'm just a little bit pretentious. You have to open the box to see Schrodinger's cock or something like that. Who the fuck was that joke for? Your dad? You know, critiquing is your engagement with art. The more honestly and thoroughly you do it, the more you get out of it. The more you learn about both art and yourself. The more you learn, the more you change. The more the way you engage changes. It's an infinite cycle. I call it the Ouroboros blowjob machine. Ever suck your own dick so good you disappear from time and space? Concepts like the death of the author are why someone can argue that Frodo and Sam are gay little gay boys. Sure, maybe Tolkien did write them to mirror a warlike relationship he had with a superior officer, but it doesn't matter, because from where I'm sitting, those are two little gay twink bottoms. How could they ever have sex? Scissoring, probably, though I could see Sam being a very gentle and respectful top who gives you a lollipop and a caress of the cheek when he's done. Which cheek you pick, it's on you to interpret. Now, just a small caveat, while I do mostly try to avoid learning about an author's intention, I'm not opposed to using it to refine or adjust my own arguments. It's just, for the most part, my preference to not. I'm also not opposed to learning the lens through which a writer writes and what effect that has on said writing. I.e., C.S. Lewis wrote through a hyper-Christian lens, so of course he can't possibly conceive of certain things. He even admits it in his statement on homosexuality. So, in that line of thinking, his writing is inherently flawed and small-minded. Imagine a writer who can't conceive of things. Yes, I'm insulting C.S. Lewis, and you're really gonna hate it when we get to his section. I'm sure there are a great deal of writers who cannot see beyond their own lens, and that to me is a failure in their role as a writer. While it is good to have your own perspective and to show that perspective, if you cannot see and imagine from the perspective of others, then you as a writer are limiting the depth of your craft. You know, I'm sure this is an issue that plagues most writers at one point or another, but it's not the biggest issue with writers. The biggest issue with writers is that they're all fucking Liars! Chapter 8. Writers are not to be trusted, aka ever heard of a plot twist? Writing fiction in general is one of the most grandiose forms of lying there is. Behind lawyers, politicians, influencers, and your current partner, writers are the biggest liars of them all. One very easy example of an untrustworthy writer is J.K. Rowling. Now, while she doesn't currently present herself as a very progressive person, for a very brief period, it seemed that she wanted to. She seemed as if she wanted to be smarter than everyone else in the room, pretending that she was always ahead of the social curve. She claimed a lot of things, like Dumbledore, being gay, though never showing it in the books. How progressive. But the one that sticks out the most is Hermione Granger's blackness. Even if she wasn't defined as white in the story, which she was, in a book like Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling writes characters under the assumption that they're white because this was the world that J.K. Rowling lived in. As the characters were assumed to be white, when introducing them, J.K. Rowling rarely said, "This is a white person," because it was assumed. I honestly can't recall a single instance of a character being introduced as a white boy, a white girl, a white man, a white woman. And even if you can find one example of a character being introduced as white, which I don't think you can, that would be the exception by vast margins, not the rule. Now, I'm not here to moralize whether or not this is good or bad. That's for a different video, but I'm sure many writers from other cultures do not specify the races or skin tones they're in unless it diverges from their cultural standard. Though there is also argument to be made that in melting pots like the United States, the UK, and Canada, it can be a weird choice. But again, not an argument for me to make, at least not today, but these 2 points do need to be said. In Harry Potter, due to the assumption of whiteness, when a character was truly black, J.K. Rowling usually said it with her chest. To take it back to the main point of this chapter, if judging by the text and the patterns therein, J.K. Rowling comes off as dishonest. It was never her intention for Hermione to be black. We can make a strong argument that she's lying about Hermione's blackness based on the patterns of J.K. Rowling's writing, as well as her life as a white woman, and I assume existing in mostly white social circles. Writers lie, but beyond that, I hope this chapter shows why it's more important to look at a text and critically dissect it yourself than to chase answers from whatever mercurial fugue state an author is in at any given time. Also, could you imagine them casting Hermione as white in the films when she is quote-unquote canonically black, with progressive hero J.K. Rowling saying nothing about it, no putting her foot down in protest? She either lied about Hermione being black, or she allowed Hermione to be whitewashed for decades. Either way, she loses in terms of lies versus faux progressive politics, another matter of political righteousness being meaningless due to a lack of critical thinking. You know, just like with the original video I'm responding to. And while we're on the subject, it's time to take that pin out of Harry, Hermione, and Ron. Hope they don't bleed to death, because that's on you. I'm gonna be honest, I'm still confused why the author of the initial video used this trio for the whole friends, side-by-side, lovers, face-to-face shtick. Again, it was just poorly thought out. They are all fighting alongside one another. They are learning alongside one another. They are facing life and death alongside one another. Regardless of this mutual suffering, Ron and Hermione end up married at the end of the story, not Harry and Hermione, and that's despite that platonic suffering mentioned in the original video. They all share that platonic suffering. Girl and boy, boy and girl, boy and boy. Again, I emphasize and will continue to emphasize the meaning of repeating these things is so you know just how fucking stupid and meaningless that little quip is, and it is proven with every example the author of the initial video used. You know, that's just my inner life coach. I don't want you to live your life based on quips and binary thinking. I want people to use their brains. I want people to use dynamic thinking. And just to note, this is not me arguing that Hermione should have been with Harry. Though, you know who would argue that? In an interview with Emma Watson, J.K. Rowling even admitted her choice to put Ron and Hermione together didn't make sense. Further, she said the choice was due to her clinging to her initial ideas for the plot. It was a form of wish fulfillment. It had nothing to do with literature. She argued the plausibility of their mutual attraction due to them being young, but noting that there was too much fundamental incompatibility. They were combative, something J.K. Rowling was unsure they would be able to get over over as adults. She then went on to say that in some ways, Hermione and Harry are a better fit than Hermione and Ron, and she had even felt this quite strongly during the scene where they spend the night in the tent together. When I read this, when I hear that the choice had quote unquote nothing to do with literature, yet all to do with wish fulfillment, I read that as J.K. Rowling made a decision to not follow what the story she had built was telling her would be the most authentic choice for the characters and narrative that she had created. You know, it's like the ending of Game of Thrones, inauthentic to everything it had built before, for a myriad of reasons we won't discuss today. This resulted in the ending to Game of Thrones being incredibly unsatisfying in a critical sense. It destroyed its own strong foundation and interwoven nature by making characters do things they wouldn't naturally do without the necessary development to get them to where they needed to be to make those choices authentically.
Oh, but it's her story. How can you tell her what's authentic and what's not authentic?
Number one, the same way I can say that Game of Thrones ending was inauthentic. That's how critical analysis works. You look at the pieces and the whole and see what makes narrative sense. Number two, imagine if The Lord of the Rings ended in the second film with Frodo putting the ring up his butt and farting so hard he shot it all the way to Mount Doom, ending the war before it started. Then he sucked off the entire fellowship. Would that make narrative sense? Would that be authentic for the story, even if that's how Tolkien wanted it to end? Exactly. Just because an author makes a choice doesn't mean that choice was good or makes sense, but it is their right to make those choices. When you're watching a movie and you complain about a stupid decision a character makes, that is you dipping your toes into the waters of critical analysis. You just don't know it yet. You're complaining even though that character's action was the author's intent. Number three, J.K. Rowling is saying it herself, not me, but I will also say it if you really need me to. I recently watched the Harry Potter films for the first time a few years ago, and I was very confused by Ron and Hermione's relationship. They didn't feel right together. I couldn't understand what it was that drew them to each other beyond their teenage hormones. I couldn't understand from the context of the story what Hermione got out of Ron. Again, I'm not shipping her with Harry, that's J.K. Rowling. And to bring it back to the topic of this chapter, when we look at this choice that J.K. Rowling admittedly made out of a desire for wish fulfillment, we can see that writers even lie to themselves. You know, if J.K. Rowling was a better writer, Ron, Harry, and Hermione would have had a three-way marriage. I think it's the only reasonable option. That would have been literature. That I could argue. Is that a joke? How angry will you be if it wasn't? You don't think wizards have thruples? Authors can lie. Authors can be wrong. And if you didn't know, a long-kept industry secret, authors misremember things. It's one of the reasons they have editors, to maintain consistency, especially in massive multi-part works like Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, or gulp, Lord of the Rings. So again, after a work is created, it's up to the reader, aka the critic, aka you, to interpret and argue if you so choose, and if you don't so choose, don't be mad at others when they do. You know, unless you get annoyed at bad or dismissive media takes, like what's happening here. But again, like with me in the original video I'm responding to, it becomes your responsibility to argue otherwise. Chapter 9. Arguing otherwise. AKA, Senpai? Is lying bad? So sometimes you need to lie. Fiction is essentially a concept where all a writer does is lie to you. You want it, you need it, you beg for it. So on the first layer, telling you a made-up story is a lie. A contractually acceptable lie, but a lie nonetheless. I know this sounds silly, but just follow me down the rabbit hole. Then, on the second layer, a writer might further lie for the sake of the story, i.e. the aforementioned plot twist, or for subversion of genre expectations. Then, on the third layer, a writer might lie because laws, capital, and societal norms won't let you tell the truth, aka, oh no, censorship. Back in the good old days, the Motion Picture Production Code, aka the Hays Code, imposed a strict set of self-censorship guidelines on the film industry. If not followed, your film would experience restricted access to theaters. That's a pretty big deal when you make a movie you want people to watch. That could go and snuff out your whole career, especially in a time before the internet. While these guidelines featured an infinitesimal, very, very small amount of good things, i.e. one thing probably, i.e. number 9 on the list, they also featured a lot of really stupid things, which also seems to conflate the badness of these things as well. We have very offensive things, such as sex perversion, aka being gay, miscegenation, and white slavery. You know, as a product of miscegenation myself, you're right, it was probably very inappropriate in films. Imagine what being exposed to that could do to the mind. The point of that joke is that these laws were mostly bigoted against minorities, the queer community, and women. You couldn't even show childbirth in silhouette, only in Scylla Dry. I apologize for that joke. Also, notice how it says willful offense to any nation, race, or creed, but white slavery is specified and not black slavery. That willful offense guideline didn't stop movies being made about romanticized black slavery or blackface or being offensive to black people in general, but it did get in the way of several negative portrayals of Nazis. So, as Edward Dmytryk states, it became a necessity to lie, to be clever, to be devious. So, if you wanted to put something, let's say gay, hello Florida, into your movie and still expect a widespread theatrical release, you would have to do it using things like subtext and implication. You would have to, pardon the pun, code it. And even after the egregious censorship of the Hays Code became a relic of the past, the cultural ideology behind parts of it maintained, specifically regarding queer representation in television and film. One very good example of this is The Matrix. In an interview with Netflix, Lily Wachowski explained that initially The Matrix was meant to contain, along with everything else it tackles, trans allegory. The character Switch was initially supposed to switch genders when moving between the real world and the Matrix. You know, hence the name Switch.
I'm glad that it has gotten out that, that was the original intention, but the world wasn't quite ready at a corporate level. The corporate world wasn't ready for it. So we had, the Matrix stuff was all like about the desire for transformation, but it was all coming from a closeted point of view. And so we had the character of Switch, who was like a character who would be, a man in the real world and then a woman in the Matrix. And, that's both were where our headspaces were.
However, the studio did not want that to be part of the film for probably obvious reasons you can guess on your own time. Unless you're being obtuse. You know what I always say, don't be obtuse, be right. It's a triangle joke, Dad. As a result of the studio pushback, the Wachowskis had to remove it from the script. Considering the budgetary requirements of The Matrix, they didn't really have a choice. This is another reason why something you see on screen might be presented in subtext versus in your face. Though sometimes, or probably always, effective subtext and theme are just good writing, period, point blank. It's the difference between something like a Hallmark movie and, The Matrix. There are an endless amount of reasons why things in fiction might not be exactly as they seem. It could be on accident or on purpose. It could be a stylistic choice or due to censorship. It could be conscious manipulation of the audience to expose things like inherent biases and hypocrisy in said audience. Which means that if someone reads into the subtext of The Matrix and finds trans allegory based on the ideas of freedom, rebirth, and transformation, or that two little gay hobbits are gay together because they have an intimate, fruit-punchy relationship and say the gosh darn sweetest things to each other, then that is, for all intents and purposes, a valid observation and argument. Besides, if one of those hairy little marsupials was a woman and their relationship was presented exactly the same, there is not a single person who would think that Frodo and Samantha would not be destined to be together. And coincidentally, Lily Wachowski also seems to subscribe to the death of the author theory. In the same interview, she said,
"When you make movies and it's this public art form, I think any kind of art that you put out into the universe, there's a letting go process, because it's entering into like public dialogue. I like that there's like an evolution process that we as human beings engage in art in a non-linear way, that we can always like talk about something in new ways and in new light."
Very simply, art is conversation from both within and without. Chapter 10. What does the CS mean? You want to know who also believes in reader response theory, which justifies about half of this video? Cocksucker Lewis. Oh, I'm sorry, was that homophobic? Don't worry, so was Cocksucker Lewis. Though I assume the people offended by that very high quality joke are the same people offended that someone might view Frodo and Sam as gay for exactly the reason you might think that they would be offended. Now, for this chapter, we're going to dive into the history and philosophies of C.S. Lewis, as his quotes were one of the main sources of argumentation for the initial video I'm responding to. It was a fucking C.S. Lewis suckfest, and there were 1,000 cocks, and they were are all C.S. Lewis's. It is important to note, I am not a C.S. Lewis scholar by any means, but the things I've found were both interesting and infuriating. As I am not a C.S. Lewis scholar and have no earthly desire to be one in this life or in any, I did the best research a single day of my life would allow and have attached all links to the sources in a comment below so you can peruse them yourselves if your little hearts so desire. Though the things I found were rabid bat crazy with a quarter pounder what the fuck and a side of fries, especially considering how the original video I'm responding to used C.S. Lewis as like a paragon of interpersonal truth. When it comes to C.S. Lewis, he himself defends the idea of reader response theory, subtext, and deeper meaning, all arguments I've used thus far. In his own words, my arguments are valid. You know, not that I really need validation, it just helps my arguments. He argued that a poem unread is not a poem at all. Art is a two-way street between the creator and the consumer. Your art is meaningless until the circuit of engagement is complete. Art requires contribution on both ends. He even argued that people who only read things once are unliterary. What an insult! Essentially, he's saying that the first read is like a one-night stand. You just want to guzzle down daddy's narrative load, but then if you hang, you talk, you laugh, you go a little deeper, you peel back the layers, then you really get to know someone. It is a matter of thirst versus flavor. It's the same with a story. The first time, it's just that excitement, that pull of the ending. Then it's the why and the how and the what does it all mean. Listen, if you think I'm pretentious, get a load of this guy. But in reading great literature, I become 1,000 men, and yet remain myself, like the night sky in the Greek poem. I see with a myriad eyes, but it is still I who see, here as in worship, in love, in moral action, and in knowing. I transcend myself and am never more myself than when I do. I don't know why that ended up sounding like a cartoon leprechaun fucked a cartoon ogre, but here we are. This passage details art as an infinite experience. It lets you get to know others and yourself. It shows you how both you and others view the world. As such, your opinions on art define you, and when you have a rigid understanding of imagination and interpretation, what does that say about you? I mean, you know, this is C.S. Lewis saying this, not me. I mean, I agree with him, but you get mad at C.S. Lewis, not me. I'm already mad at him. We could be mad at him together. Now, I'm gonna try and keep this as short as I can. Otherwise, this whole video will devolve into the C.S. Lewis show, and it is not his show. It is mine. Mine! So, despite the fact that C.S. Lewis seems to agree with me, at least in part, on literary criticism, we do differ quite heavily on the idea of homosexuality. C.S. Lewis argued that the gays should accept sexual abstinence, celibacy for life, which I hope anyone with a functioning brain would think is fucking nonsense. You know, free will, consenting adults, party time. His opinions are especially bizarre when you take into account his best friend and the first person who truly seemed to get him was a gay man. Just read this for me. Roaming without a name, without a chart, the unknown garden of another's heart. Or even better, the man who first reveals to you that you are not alone in the world by turning out beyond hope to share all your most secret delights. There is nothing to be overcome in making him your friend. He and you join like raindrops on a window. That's gay! You get to laugh at South Park calling all this shit gay. You get to laugh at fucking the guy from Community calling shit gay, but fucking this isn't gay to you? But this isn't gay to you? I'm not even making fun of him, at least not for this. I'm just using this to highlight both hypocrisy and how complicated these subjects are. It's important to note that I don't think it's gay to be a straight man and have a gay best friend. I also don't think writing romantic shit like this to another man, gay or not, makes you inherently gay. I also don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, which the original video, even if not implicitly stated, the comment section of the original video and C.S. Lewis all seem to think that things are devalued or wrong if considered gay, which they very much are not. Though I am saying if we want to make it an argument, we can make it an argument, and a friendship would not be the lesser for it. I mean, let's be real. The shit C.S. Lewis is writing his gay best friend is just romantic, whether platonic or not. You know, let's be really real. Swap the genders out, send this to your lady and or man friend. If C.S. Lewis was writing this to a woman, everyone would consider this shit romance. That's some of the most romantic shit I've ever heard. It's almost as romantic as...
Don't leave me here alone. Don't go where I come from.
Further, the initial author also quotes C.S. Lewis in regards to the opening line of a friendship. Boy, You too? I thought that no one but myself. Coincidentally, this is also the opening line to a lot of gay sex. And that's the danger of rigidly defining relationships with quips. These are the things C.S. Lewis wrote about his gay best friend, which I think is sweet, whether he wanted to surf the sausage or not. Or spank him. Yeah, we should probably talk about the spanking.
Don't spank me. I'm not gonna spank you. Don't spank me! Spencer, is your dad here? I'm not going to, and I wouldn't.
In regards to C.S. Lewis's gay best friend Arthur, he was described as being very good looking, with golden hair and a rose cream complexion, bearing a remarkable resemblance to his sister Lily. Now, C.S. Lewis admitted to his gay best friend Arthur that he frequently masturbated and had fantasies about whipping Arthur's sister Lily, that it would do her good. Which I'm just gonna leave that for you guys to discuss. He also got drunk at a party once and begged people to let him whip them. He signed his letters to his gay best friend, Lover of the Whip. He was into fucking Marquis de Sade. You know, this is my problem with people like this. They think homosexuality is perverse, but then go around begging strangers to bend over and let them get a good spank in. Now, I am not anti-fetish. I'm a sick little demon. I think it's cool that C.S. Lewis likes spanking. It gives him character. It's his quirk. Again, like with the original video I'm criticizing, my problem is the hypocrisy and the lack of internal logic. Oh, so you get to go around and be a pervert, but when other perverts want to be perverts, it's a problem, sir, Lover of the Whip. I swear, people are always trying to close the door behind them. I won't even put too much emphasis on the fact that Arthur and his sister looked remarkably similar. I also won't put too much emphasis on how he described Tolkien in a similar vein to Arthur's appearance, and how all he needed was a good smack or so. Now, the author of the original video used the following C.S. Lewis quote as the punchy opening to his video. Those who cannot conceive friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betray the fact that they have never had a friend. Essentially, aha, losers, you think Sam and Frodo are gay? Obviously, you've never even had a friend. You know, the high literary equivalent of a schoolyard insult. You're rubber and I'm bananas, I hope you slip and break your fucking neck. Though the issue here is that I'm sure the people the author is talking about can conceive of friendship as a substantive love and probably do have friends. But when they look at characters like Sam and Frodo, they don't see the substantive love of friendship, they see the substantive love of lovers. And that's just on the critical side of things. A lot of times, people ship because they think that shit is cute or hot. I can't believe this whole video started because someone was upset about gay shipping. Fuck me. The quote is a silly blanket statement. It's a schoolyard straw man. Then we have the quote that's plagued me this whole fucking video. The idea that lovers are normally face to face, absorbed in each other, friends side by side, absorbed in some common interest. Friends get absorbed in each other, lovers get absorbed in common interests. This is another silly blanket statement that fails to understand the complexity of human relationships, desperate to distill them into silly quips. Further, the way C.S. Lewis talks about his friends doesn't even line up with his description of love and friendship. He even wrote poems to his friends, about his feelings about his friends. Their feelings, their ideas, their company, their willingness to listen seemed to be the foundation of their friendships. Even if they had common interests beyond that, which they did, so do lovers. For an easy example, how many couples do you think curl up on a cold winter night to watch a new show together? This stupid fucking quip, it haunts me. Under observation, it breaks down like a cookie and milk. I mean, wait until C.S. Lewis learns about polycules, or heterosexuality and homoromanticism, or verse the vices. The possibilities are endless. And if you want me to be super honest, this feels beyond disingenuous. This feels like running cover. This feels like the 1960s equivalent of no homo. It feels like C.S. Lewis wanted to have his gay friend and eat it too.
Yo, we should watch this gay porno tape. But that's a joke, cause we're all straight.
Also, rant incoming. This is gonna be a bit rude, but since he thinks homosexuals shouldn't have sex, it's hard to care about popping shots at a dead man. I mean, let's be serious. There's not much more damage I can do. Just because C.S. Lewis wrote a book form essay on love doesn't make any of it mean anything, especially someone who has probably only had one very simple relationship with a woman his entire fucking life. At the very end of his life at that, one that lasted 4 years and produced no children, and even started out as a civil union to help her stay in the country as far as my research shows. I mean, with no children, there's no way to say say that they ever even had intercourse. This is closeted behavior. This is a gay best friend helping his homegirl get a green card or whatever color it is in the UK. Now, I'm not saying that a relationship needs sex to be valid. That's what the original video and associated comments imply. Relationships being so acutely binary that the only way to have one is to fuck like cross-faded rabbits.
All carrots look like big orange dicks to me. That's why I feel so nervous biting them. But I just want more. Does that mean I want more dicks or more carrots? I guess I'll never know, but it'll haunt me. A garden full of dicks. All I want to do is jump.
Maybe some people here, including the content creator, aren't trying to shove relationships into a hyper-stiff binary. It's possible, but given the context of the video, it's just highly unlikely. Besides the contradictory nature of his relationships and views on love, I think C.S. Lewis's little essay invalidates itself just based on the fact that he doesn't believe in homosexual love. How can you claim authority on anything enough to write a book about it, then completely ignore major, sprawling facets of it? It is unintellectual, and you can't. Having some random type of authority, i.e. being an incredibly wealthy children's book author, not a sociological or psychological researcher, doesn't mean everything you say is always correct. Logical fallacy, appeal to authority, not even real authority, get out of here, go. You know, give us writing advice, not relationship advice. You want me to be super honest? You want me to be my most speculative and uncharitable? To me, it sounds like C.S. Lewis was gay to some degree and closeted. That he used his gay friend Arthur's sister, who looked so similar to Arthur, as sadomasochistic masturbation fodder because he didn't know how to process or think about his feelings for Arthur himself. He wasn't as brave as Arthur. Honestly, it appears as if Arthur was C.S. Lewis's first love. They talked to each other about themselves, just like C.S. Lewis claims lovers do. He's making the argument himself, I don't even need to. And honestly, he seemed to view Tolkien in the same light as Arthur, that physical description that matched his masturbatory fantasies of Arthur's sister. C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien are my Sam and Frodo. Chapter 11. Thomas the Train Choo-Choo Engine all aboard. How the fuck do you think these tracks got here? Also, what about the women? The author of the original video states,
Men thrive in labor together. The best friendships I ever formed were in shared suffering on Boy Scout trips, in the rain, in the cold, in the wind, trying to set up a tent together in the dark, and men used to work together more regularly side by side before the digital era.
The comments here agree with the author's statements, and I'm not going to diminish the friendships these people have made this way, because that would be stupid and disingenuous. But what I will diminish is the rigid and cartoonish idea that friends must be made through some deep trauma, through war, through hard labor. Of course, those things can produce very deep relationships. I've made friendships with people I've worked and suffered with, but my deepest friendships personally, for me, not you, were people I met on accident, at random, who I connected with like two trees, side by side, roots tangling together until the forest burns. I have made incredible friends by just joking around, talking philosophy, politics, movies, feelings, video games, talking about each other. So it's a little silly, this idea that you need to deliver a ring to Mordor or build a fucking railroad together so Thomas can deliver raincoats to Sudsy Boots, the puppy governor, for whatever he does with them, just in order to establish a friendship. This video talks about male loneliness, and that's a huge topic that I can only scratch the surface of here, but one of the issues appears to be the highly limiting ideology presented in videos like this, as well as the people in the comments, not the dorks shipping Dean and Castiel.
Why does this sound like a goodbye? Because it is.
Again, the call is coming from inside the house. This video is counterproductive. Through this video and these arguments and these comments, men are being given a rigid framework for what friendship is and isn't allowed to be. This suffering, this shared trauma is not a necessary precursor to friendship. I promise you, you can make friends in other ways. So, not to diminish the human struggle, it can be incredibly difficult for anyone these days to make friends, regardless of gender. But that's a complicated topic way beyond the scope of this video, and it doesn't stop and end at ... not enough shared trauma. I mean, just look around. We all have plenty of shared trauma, okay? And when it comes to the subtle distinction between lovers and friends,
Oh, I gotta know, baby.
in reality and non-rigid reality, there is a bleed over. There is no hard red line, just a gradient, and we must each ourselves determine that difference. It's part of the fun of life. Life is a watercolor painting, one splash and the colors smear. Oh no, what a mess! But it's kind of pretty like that, don't you think? Sometimes friends become lovers, sometimes lovers become friends, sometimes friends fuck because they're horny or curious and then it never happens again. So no, even penetration to me does not equal romantic love. A one-night stand does not a husband make. Do you get that? Do you agree? I feel like you agree. And if you do, that proves my point in and of itself. It's complicated, which is okay. Complicated does not always mean bad. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could counter argue that it doesn't have to be complicated. And my counter argument to that would be twofold off the top of my head. One, no, it doesn't, but the nuance varies from person to person. And if the nuance varies from person to person, then it stands that even if you want it to be simple, unless you find the one friend and or lover you are not 99.9% but 100% aligned with, it will ultimately evolve into complication. And two, just the fact that the original video I'm responding to was made, a video full of pseudo-philosophical nonsense that tries to distill life into a series of quips, is fact enough that this stuff is quite complicated, my dear Watson. Going back to C.S. Lewis's idea that friendship must be about something, an idea that is heavily co-signed in the original video, not only do I disagree with this fucking-phatically, but as we saw with how C.S. Lewis handled his friendships, so does he. You know, unless he's finally ready to come out of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Not only does C.S. Lewis appear to disagree with his own statement, but apparently the author of the original video also disagrees with this statement, despite his cosigns and tangents. At one point, he mentions friends existing in quiet coexistence and doing nothing.
There will be hugs, backslaps, eye contact, tears, anger, and quiet coexistence.
It might not be a tacit endorsement of my arguments, but it follows the logic of them. Friendships can exist in the quiet. Friendships can be about nothing. Friendships can also solely be about your interest and appreciation for another person, the simple act of enjoying each other's presence, each other's existence. You know, like lovers, like it is argued that lovers do. This video, man, this fucking video. This is what happens when you base your ideology off of quips, especially C.S. Lewis quips. They're not good, I'm sorry. They get 1 Buffy the Vampire Slayer out of 10. Final rating.
That'll put marzipan in your pie plate, bingo.
The original author also provides another quote. You will not find the warrior, the poet, the philosopher, or the Christian by staring in his eyes as if he were your mistress.
Eye contact.
This quote is one of the worst of all and goes back to the inane stupidity of friends are side by side, lovers are face to face. This stupid quip will follow me to the fucking grave! Yes, you will in fact find all of those things by staring into the eyes of another man as if he were your mistress. Talking poetry is usually done very face to face. If there's more than one person, usually in a circle. Ooh, we're introducing multiple people now?
Filthy little witches.
Arguing philosophy, politics, critical readings of poetry, books, and film is all a face-to-face, back-and-forth endeavor, but that's not even the biggest issue. The biggest issue is what then, after you remove these things for your male friendships, is left for your heterosexual romance. Penis inside of
your vagina. Can I get an amen?
Is that it? Judging by these comments, it seems like that's the defining line. You're just picking a permanent sex bot fuck toy. Philosophy is for the boys, girls get the shaft, literally. The author states that masculinity requires doing things, so in turn, does femininity require doing nothing? Is that what a relationship is with a woman? It might seem like I'm being obtuse, and I am, but only partially. While the video still reads like that, I am again pointing out how stupid it is to use inverse statements as arguments of fact. I'm just doing what the initial author did, what C.S. Lewis did, though my question still holds more water because of the emphatic nature of the statements in the original video. The very rigid definitions of masculinity and male friendship. And yes, for the pedantic people out there, women were briefly mentioned in the original video in passing in a very surface level way. Congratulations, you got me! To be a little pretentious, is a person not their philosophies, their ideas, their emotions? friends? This video makes it sound like women are not viewed as people within this ideological framework. Relax, I'm not accusing anyone of misogyny. I am, however, saying that when you emphatically state bad ideas based on quips, based on rigid binaries, as if they are fact, you might accidentally argue in favor of misogyny, or, insert whatever your favorite type of bigotry is here. Despite the fact that the original video is mostly about men, it must be said there's nothing special about men or women. Both can make friends the same way, either through trauma, work, common interest, feelings, philosophy, humor, car theft, homicide. It's up to you. I'm trying my best not to morally police here, but it gets kind of hard. Men can be friends with men, women can be friends with women, men and women can be friends. It doesn't matter your sex, gender, how you want to rearrange the puzzle. It's a modular puzzle. You put it together how you want to. And in that regard, you could argue that it is art. You know what else is art? Finding common ground. One of the things that does work in this video is when the author quotes Lucius Annaeus Seneca in regards to seeking out friendships just so you won't die alone. Anyone thinking of his own interests and seeking out friendship with this in view is making a great mistake. Before we get into this, isn't it funny how this philosopher the original author is using essentially argues the same thing I am, that there is clearly a watercolor bleed over in both platonic and romantic relationships? There is no hard-coded line besides the one you define for yourself, i.e. shoulder shrug, it's complicated. Again, it just feels like you don't want to be sincerely called gay, only insincerely. That's why we're trying to draw these very rigid lines. And back to your regularly scheduled program. This is a valid quote and idea, probably because it's not just a sassy quip, but direct, actionable advice, not pseudo-clever literary sleight of hand. Relationships cannot be built on selfishness, because selfishness is rooted in the self. Relationships are rooted in other people. That's my quip. You like it? If you notice the difference, it's again direct and actionable. If you try and make a friendship about you, it will ultimately fail. I also used the word relationship instead of friendship because it applies to both platonic and romantic relationships. That way, the nuance doesn't get confusing and the person trying to use that advice is allowed to determine for themselves how to apply said idea. See how better things work when you think them out? And that just took me 5 whole minutes. Quips are dangerous. We should require a license to wield them. Quips and jokes and slogans make the dumbest among us feel powerful, like guns.
Why does the culture try to corrupt and deride friendship? One of C.S. Lewis's most bold claims in The Four Loves about this is that friendships are a threat to power and collectivist tyranny. Friendship is a miniature rebellion against larger groups and power structures. And I think deep, affectionate, and values-driven male friendships are in fact threatening to some people.
Okay, it is a bit dramatic, even for my taste, and while I agree with the Sailor Moon of it all, i.e. true, meaningful friendship is power, I disagree with which culture the author thinks is trying to corrupt and deride said male friendships. Again, the call is coming from inside the house. The only culture of people doing that are the people who see this video thumbnail and click it out of a desire to get one up on the gays and those who like the gays. The people who have been homophobic for decades, the people making the gay jokes, not the people shipping the Hobbit twinks. They're actually more otterish, but Twinks just has more of a comedic punch. I'm gonna surprise you here, but the shippers aren't the ones who think you're less than for being intimate with another man. Why do you think they go out of their way to fantasize about it? They like it. It makes them feel all warm and fuzzy inside. There's not some big global conspiracy where teenage girls are trying to destroy male society by making gay fan art of Naruto and Sasuke tickling each other in a bubble bath.
I mean, like, what makes the Asians decide who they're gonna make gay?
The Asians decide who's gonna be gay? Yeah, they do. The Asians just, they just pick who they pick, and so it's the way it's always been.
Yeah, I can use South Park clips too, but leave the South Park pin in, we're not there yet. A lot of girls just think that shit is cute. Let them think that shit is cute. And when the gay boys do it, they're just looking to see themselves reflected in the things that they enjoy. The people in the comment section of the original video, however, they will be the first ones to call you gay when you and another meaty guy touch each other's butts or whatever it is you do in your straight male-on-male friendships. And again, my very profound and complex advice is if someone thinks your little man-on-man action is gay, stop caring, you pussy, you little pussy, you little pussy. Grow the fuck up. Yes, a chibi anime fox cat on the internet is telling you, a grown man, to grow the fuck up. I mean it. For your mental health in mind, grow the fuck up. Motherfuckers are out here in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and shit, upset that they look gay? Pussy, clown, joke, doofus, why do you care? Stop caring. You have a really good friend. Some people don't have any friends. Fuck is wrong with you? You're living in this bizarro fantasy world where you're oppressed or abused because someone thinks you're gay? Chapter 12. Shipping and Handling Part 1, aka putting the package in the box. Speaking of fantasy worlds, some people just like to live in fantasy worlds. To be Franklin, most of us live in fantasy worlds. Some of us are just more honest about it than others. Things like shipping and fan fiction are just expressions of that, falling in love with a usually fictional world and its characters and wanting to explore that more using their own imaginations. Though, I do agree that fandoms, and in turn, shipping and fanfictions, can be incredibly toxic at times, especially when it starts to involve real living people. But that's something to critique in and of itself, not the actual act of engaging in said activities, which I don't think is inherently toxic. You know, it's like quips. Certain things should require a license. People just can't be trusted.
With great power, there must come great responsibility.
In the original video, the author quotes C.S. Lewis in regards to assuming the queerness of a male friendship. It cannot be approved and it cannot be refuted. The very lack of evidence is treated as evidence. AKA Schrodinger's cock part 2. Okay, I understand he sounds like a cartoon plumber now. I was trying not to draw attention to it, but hey, here we are. I don't know what my mouth is doing. I'm not responsible for this thing. You think I have a license to wield my mouth? Your dad has a license to wield my mouth.
There's an evil inside you.
Back on topic, back to Schrodinger's cock part 2. When looking at the Lord of the Rings films, I would argue that Sam and Frodo seem gay, not because I want them to be, though again, how cute. I would argue that Sam and Frodo seem gay because Sam and Frodo seem gay. There's a profound intimacy between them. They get upset at one another like lovers do. Again, the line, "Don't go where I can't follow," is more romantic than anything I've seen in 100 movies that are actually about romance. Yes, there's a big difference between I think these characters are gay based off of my observations, and I want these characters to be gay based off of my desires. Though, admittedly, the Venn diagram can overlap. C.S. Lewis just fails to understand the nuance of it all. Or, you know, again, running defense. In the universe where I want to be super charitable to C.S. Lewis and say he wasn't running defense, he was, at the very least, ashamed of having a gay friend and wanted to make sure the whole world knew. Also, for the other crowd, I know there's more shipping beyond, ooh, gay, but it's the topic that started this video, and it's also kind of the cutest if you ask me. In these arguments, I'm not treating the lack of evidence as evidence. I'm using evidence which includes both historical context and logic. It's another throwaway statement by C.S. Lewis, who at this point seemed so far up his own ass that all he breathed was fucking methane. That couldn't have been very good for his neurotransmitters if you ask me. Not a doctor, but it's probably why he makes so many fucking quips like this is a Lost Avengers film. This is the difference between critical analysis and shipping. Though again, Venn diagram can overlap. Allow me to expound, just like your dad expounded me. The difference being, like with the Lord of the Rings films, you can use the evidence based on the narrative and the way the narrative is delivered to make an effective argument as to why Frodo and Sam are in fact gay based off of circumstantial and situational observations. That's just like basic fucking media analysis. Why are we being so dramatic about this? I'm being dramatic because you're being dramatic. Don't you blame me? Don't you blame me? But if you argue that Gandalf and Sauron are gay together, that would probably end up in the realm of shipping because it makes zero narrative sense. Though, I would love to watch a well thought out video essay on why I'm wrong about that. Gandalf basking bare in the searing glare of Sauron's eye. Kinda hot, no? Let me know your compelling arguments for Gandoron in the comments below. And again, sometimes desires and observations can overlap. Hello, Gojo and Geto, my handsome little lovers. Now, if you've watched the animes Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia, it would be a lot easier to argue the gayness of Geto and Gojo versus Deku and Bakugo. This is in part because Deku and Bakugo's relationship is a lot less ambiguous than Geto and Gojo's, but me shipping Geto and Gojo deserves its own video, one I will make but never publish. So, when you get upset about someone thinking Sam and Frodo are gay, ask yourself why. Can it reasonably be argued within the context of the film? Do you have to run to Daddy Tolkien for him to explain why his very gay characters are not gay? Are you just upset because, gay? By the way, this also directly refutes another terrible C.S. Lewis quote the author uses. Those who cannot conceive of a friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betray the fact that they have never had a friend.
That's girl Bob. Girl, I ain't even got time to fool with you. I ain't even gonna answer. Girl, come on, get up out of my space, baby. Come on. You're clogging the air over here.
Again, that is not what's happening here. This quote, this very poorly thought out running defense ass quote, seems to suggest that questioning one relationship is a question to all relationships. When, in reality, some relationships are just a bit more fruity, juicy, chewy, yum than others. Motherfuckers are out here speaking so many words and saying absolutely nothing. The idea of both shipping and critical analysis is exploring other ideas, interacting with a story beyond the cum rush of its narrative. Again, C.S. Lewis essentially argued for this, and to do otherwise would be unliterary. And to bring it back to a previous point, even if someone is shipping a character already in a heterosexual relationship, bisexuality exists, repression exists, being in the closet exists, maybe their straight relationship doesn't seem authentic or good, the reasons are endless. And yes, this can even be done in reverse homophobia, my favorite kind of homophobia, making a gay character straight. You get back in that closet, you little gay little hobbit. Though you rarely, if ever, see this, because how often are there two gay main characters in a series? A lot of times, still rarely, you get the one token gay character and then the romantic side character who usually dies. Further, if this was a type of shipping people actually did, more power to them, have fun. But if someone were to get upset at this, which I have yet to see, it would likely go back to societal trauma like the Hays Code and lack of representation. So I hope you could give them just a little smidgen, just a little smudge of grace in this very, very unlikely scenario. To frame it more clearly, sometimes shipping is a way to fight against that societal lack of representation, but doing the opposite would come off as a way to fight actual representation. I hope the nuance isn't lost on you for, again, this very, very unlikely scenario that someone else decided in their own head is a widespread and pervasive issue that is holding down heterosexual society from truly expressing who they are. The author argues that friendship can be a rebellious act, and I agree to an extent. It's not always a rebellious act, but it can be. Imagine being straight and having a gay friend and not being so embarrassed you need to write a book-long essay on why you're not gay. I mean, I guess I'm at least partially kidding, but that would be rebellious. To not care about society's opinions on your own intimate friendships? To push against societal norms? When put like that, shipping can also be a rebellious act, just like friendship. Queerness is usually something society fights against. It's in the laws, it's in religion, it's everywhere. Therefore, despite how silly you think shipping is, inserting queerness where others might not see it or showing the thin line between something being queer and something close to it is a genuine act of rebellion. It might sound silly, but it's true. While intention does not define reality, desire can manifest it. See, I can make quips too. Better quips. All of my quips throughout this video. Mwah. So, if you want to ship a gay character into a heterosexual relationship, or to argue why no, someone in insert media here is not gay, just be honest about why you're doing it. Say it with your chest, not with your asshole. Because depending on how it's done, it can feel like a dog whistle instead of a genuine desire or critical analysis. Like a reason for everyone who gutturally hates the visibility and or existence of queerness to look at the thumbnail, watch the video, show up in the comment section and say, "Hell yeah, brother." Chapter 3 motherfucking teen. Shipping and handling part 2. Reading the label. There are a lot of comments that show this to be the case, which I've weaved in throughout the video, but this one was one of the most curious. This person says that the video on male friendship is a painful topic for him. He just wants a male friend. Normalize straight homo bromance. And we'll just ignore the fact that having a gay best friend isn't an option for him, that's a whole can of spiders in and of itself. And beyond the spiders, sometimes it feels like people are accidentally limiting themselves, which this video is very guilty of, which gets in the way of making actual connections. But back on topic. In turn, Arthur Rex tells him to stop using the word bromance as it contains romance in its spelling. But he doesn't make the same complaint about the initial author using the word bromance, who is also complaining about the way male friendships can be perceived.
There's different flavors of friendship. The bromance is the TV sitcom default. It's guys backslapping, being vulgar, venting about their wives, and just having fun. Sometimes these on-screen relationships toy with the gay question as a matter of comedy.
Which leads me to make one of three uncharitable interpretations here. Because even if this person was genuinely trying to help, which I don't think they were, this comment was likely motivated from one of three probable places. Number one, people don't fucking listen because he didn't even hear the word used in the video in the exact same manner as this comment. Or at the very least, they only listen when they want to be offended or be an asshole. Number two, people don't think critically because if he did hear it and didn't draw the connection, then he is not actively engaging with the information presented. Number three, he didn't care because he saw a gay person make this comment and wanted to say something condescending, framing the way the gay person presented his issue as inherently flawed, despite the fact that the straight content creator did the exact same thing.
Bromance.
This connection doesn't matter because gay is the thing he doesn't like, which is why he found this video appealing enough to click on. Also, my dear Scruff McMooseknuckle, I'm sorry. I know I don't know you, but you probably deserve better. There are people out there who don't give a fuck that you're gay. My friendship circles are full of straight men, gay men, bi men, and women too. I'm fully admitting that I'm lucky, so it is easy for me to say, but just know that it is possible to make friends. Learn to not want to be friends with people who do not want to be friends with you. It'll save you a lot of time and heartache. Now this comment, if you want a quick analysis, just a guess, just a little hypothesis, it sounds like this man's friend's wife was envious of how close the two of them were. It sounds like she called them both gay, not because she believed they were, but because she wanted to make them insecure, to taint their friendship so she no longer had to deal with that sense of envy. She wanted to destroy it. Obviously, she was right about the effect it would have, as he was clearly upset by the idea. Again, where is the call coming from? Inside the house. Do you honestly think the envious homophobic wife is out here writing fan fiction about Sam and Frodo? No, you don't! Now, this comment offers a more definite insight as to why this person clicked on the initial video, along with almost 4,000 other people. This misunderstanding is why so many children claim to be gay or lesbian, because they are told they can't love their friend platonically. So messed up. The logic here is flawed and cracked. It is a mirror made of dust. I initially wrote a 1,000-word response to this because just like the initial video, it is an uncritical, unnuanced statement on a very nuanced and complex thing, essentially amounting to Mina like gay. Bruh. But then I realized 1,000 words of wasted breath would sideline the video on a tangent too far from the main point. So instead, I simply say, not even a thing, no it isn't, and the only reason you think it's messed up is very simply, you think gay equals bad. Again, it's a lot more likely that a rigid understanding of friendship and the ridicule of same-sex intimacy are some of the biggest issues standing in the way of same-sex friendship. Also, this comment is further bullshitted because, bitch, kids don't even know what the fuck platonic means! This comment is further bullshitted by the fact that men and women have been told they can't love each other platonically for time immemorial, but adding that into their comment would mean they have to think, and something tells me they don't like thinking. They just like to say shit. Sorry, cut the response down by 3/4 and still went too deep. Just like your dad. Based on these three comments, it's clear to see the type of person this video speaks to. People who don't like the idea of gay, or at best want it to be very, very quiet, as well as the sad gays who just want to fit in and be part of the group that hates them. I don't necessarily think it was the creator's intention to make a video that appeals to homophobic ideology, but say it with me once more with feeling, class. Intention does not define reality! Chapter 14, Shipping and Handling, Part 3, Package in Transit. It's finally time to take out the South Park pin. It's broken, it's rusted, you'll get tetanus. In the original video that this essay is in response to, South Park is used as an example, probably because they use the word gay derogatorily, and the author thought, gay. But this falls back under the rule of when greasy hands pick cherries, cherries fall. In South Park Season 19, Episode 6, Tweak X Craig, Tweak and Craig are shipped by a group of students, leading everyone to question the effects this shipping has on reality. Does this make them gay, this fantasization? Is reality being imposed upon them?
I mean, like, what makes the Asians decide who they're gonna make gay?
The Asians decide who's gonna be gay? Yeah, they do. The Asians just, they just pick who they pick, and so it's the way it's always been.
This feels like a direct response to the aforementioned comment, poking fun at the idea that this is some phenomenon causing a flooding torrent of gayness to crash over humanity, drowning it beneath its waves. The strong, manly men of our world choking on it as it soaks into their skin and fills their bellies. I call it the Rainbow Splash. It's my favorite drink. I've trademarked it. I've fashion lined it. I could share, but only a taste. I'm really thirsty, and I need all that I can get. At first, it seems like South Park is just making a throwaway joke, a satirization of yaoi and shipping culture, which it is. The South Park elementary students creating a framework to force a gay couple into existence because there isn't one, because they want there to be one. It's esoteric. The reason doesn't actually matter. What matters is they want gay. This idea originally came about when Matt Stone and Trey Parker discovered the actual shipping of these two characters, which included copious yaoi images.
Popping up, and different people would show it to us and go, oh, look at this cool thing of Tweak and Craig, and it's like they're making out and they're doing whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? We just thought it was really weird and funny and like, super cool.
So weird. But then, as the series goes on, it turns out that Craig and Tweak are in love with each other. Not only are they in love with each other, but arguments notwithstanding, they probably have one of the best relationships in the show when you take into account all the other unhinged and unstable couples that exist in the fucked up town of South Park. The desire and or joke becomes reality. The diegetic and non-diegetic want for that representation becomes representation itself. People in the real world ship Tweak and Craig either as a joke or because...
gay.
Then, Matt Stone and Trey Parker shipped Tweak and Craig as a joke. Then, Matt Stone and Trey Parker simply shipped Tweak and Craig.
I really like their relationship now, because they definitely are more than friends, but it's like, it's not front and center that they're like sexual or anything. But it was nice because it just gave us this, they're a couple, so we can treat them like a couple and do couple issues.
The episode was one of South Park's funniest episodes. It's also one of my favorite episodes, but it's also incredibly cool and interesting, the long-lasting consequences of it. Again, intention does not define reality, but desire can manifest it. That's kind of what art is. That should pretty much be one of the biggest takeaways of this entire video. I know I might sound pretentious, but no one complains when C.S. Lewis does. He just gets sucked off for doing the bare minimum.
Is that because he's a straight white male?
You say straight, I say beg to differ. So go have fun when it comes to things like shipping and or critical analysis. Just don't be a dick about it. Don't be a dick. Easy. And just because it needs to be said, critical analysis itself can be done for fun. Sometimes just to argue something just to see if you can argue it. Just don't fall into the devil's advocate trap. A trap where you state a really dumb, poorly thought out opinion, then when you get called out on it, you say,
well, I was just playing devil's advocate. I was just trolling. I was just rage baiting. Oh, and oh boy, you fell for it.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And no, we didn't. Unless by falling for it, you mean the mistake of trying to take someone so stupid so seriously. You got exposed and now you're embarrassed and everybody knows, but you're trying to bandage up your own baby bird ego because your hollow wings will snap if you don't. And how are you supposed to fly again? I want to see you fly, baby. That's the reason I can both argue why it's okay to call Sam and Frodo gay in an appreciative shipping sort of way, and also argue why they are critically, in fact, very much quite gay. The final chapter! Delivering the package. So, to argue, based on all of the aforementioned points, are Sam and Frodo gay little gays together? The answer, very simply, hold your breath, close your eyes, take my hand if you need to. Yes, I know my skin is soft. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? The answer is, get a little closer. The answer, get a little bit, there you go. The answer is It's complicated. It's complicated. The answer is that it's complicated. I know you hate me. I know you hate me. I know. I'm sorry. I love you though. I love. Mwah, mwah.
So I think Sam and Frodo should have kissed. And my feeling about that is that, Rachel said to say that, to tell you that, with a, sort of kidding. But why, first of all, how do you know they didn't? You know what I mean? It's a long trek to Mordor. We loved the gay fan fiction when it came out. When it came out, like coming out of the closet, oh my gosh. Anyhow, our instinct when the movie came out was just to love that fans embraced the movie and the characters, and so whatever people want to conceptualize for them is fine with us.
Like, comment, subscribe, or hit the hype button if there's still a hype button if you want to help this video. Oh, you want bonus content? Well, here's your bonus content because I love you and, hold on, you deserve it. Number 1, I haven't even heard of Frog and Toad, but the author of the original videos seemed to have issues with an article that I'm assuming argued queer undertones in Frog and Toad. All I'm gonna say to that is, might it be possible that the story written by a gay person maybe could possibly have queer undertones? Possibly? Is that crazy? I don't know. Number 2, I didn't feel like delving too deep into this, but the video I responded to seemed to have this implicit separation between gayness and masculinity when historically there have always been very dainty and foppish straight men, as well as very beefy and masculine gay men. Masculinity and gayness are not mutually exclusive concepts. Number 3, I'm not saying the author got his whole video from this Tumblr post. I have the same ideas other people have all the time. There are only so many ideas to go around. But I do think it's interesting how similar they are, especially the use of the word toxic. If he wasn't inspired by this post, it is interesting how not only does the shipping of Sam and Frodo have this constant reoccurrence through the timeline, but so does the negative response to it. Number 4, hopefully this video didn't seem too vitriolic. I did want it to be critical, but also humorous and lighthearted, not like lives are at stake. Just like a little sassy, you know? Number 5, okay, really the end this time. Now, I didn't mean to make this video 2 hours long, it just sort of happened that way, which I guess is the danger of trying to untangle incomplete logic, but thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you want to help the channel, watch another one of my videos, or you could watch another one of my videos because you want to be thoroughly entertained with at least somewhat educational, visceral content. Alright, okay, I'm done. Love you. Bye!